So here we want to answer the question about how I would gain information to create training material. There are many ways. The main way you would identify is gaining information from an individual that has the knowledge that you need to create the material. In most cases, they are called subject matter experts. You also can gain that information from documentation or something of that sort. I've also used if it's a system or a product, I've actually been able to sit down in the system or sit down with the product and just be able to have my hands on or interact with the system and create questions that I would have about the system if I was an end user. But in most cases, you have someone, hopefully, that has a greater knowledge of the system that you might not have. And if you're dealing with a subject matter expert, the first thing I always do is try to identify the subject matter expert and try to identify what is the communication style that subject matter expert likes to communicate in. What I'm saying is, how does that person like to relay information? Being that you're dealing with a subject matter expert, and being that I've dealt with more subject matter experts that are technically minded, they normally have different ways they want to communicate. Some of them like to communicate by writing. Some of them like to communicate by talking, interacting one-on-one. Some like to get into these large groups and have these brainstorming sessions where they throw out information that they think is prudent. What you have to do is try to find out which one of those actually is the most comfortable for that subject matter expert. And the reason I say that is that you have to understand, in most cases, the subject matter expert, their job is something else. Basically, it's not trying to help create training material. Their job is, if they're a developer, developing the system, make sure it's up and coming. If they're a product, if it deals with a product, trying to make sure that product is working. So if you try to force them into your communications, the best communication style that you receive information in, they might not be that receptive. Secondly, even though you're allowing them to use their communication style, you are the person that's in charge of actually directing how the information is given to you. Let me give you an example. When we sit down with a subject matter expert, we normally have 10 or 15 questions that we want to know about the product or system or whatever we're providing training on. And we come in and we start off and we try to ask and get the answers to those questions initially. So if it's a brainstorming scenario, before we receive those brainstorms from all the subject matter experts, we try to get those 10 or 15 questions answered. And if it's a person who likes to communicate by email, same thing. Direct those questions directly to them. Ask them to please answer those as fully as they can. And then after that, then especially if it's a brainstorming or a meeting or whatever the case may be, allow that subject matter expert to give you the added information that they want to tell you about that system. The reason why you want to do that is because the answers that you receive from those questions are going to be the foundation on what you create when it comes to the training material. Those answers should be converted into the objectives. Those objectives are the ones that are going to be approved, and from those objectives you're going to go ahead and create the training material. So you have to be the person that actually directs or tries to acquire the actual answers that you need from that subject matter expert. A couple of other things I would also acquire is that if it's a product, if it's a system, whatever the case may be, try to get some knowledge, personal knowledge of that system, of that product, before you talk to the subject matter expert. Reason why I say that is because you want to show this person that you have you at least try to get some basic understanding of the system or some basic understanding of the product before you go in there. And by doing that as well, you can ask more intelligible questions from that person. So just to sum it up, identify how the information is, where are you going to get the information from? Is it written? Is it a person? Is it hands-on with a system? If it's a subject matter expert, identify the communication style. Go in there with questions that you want answered. Then gather additional free-forming answers if the subject matter expert wants to add that in. and try to utilize as much try to gain as much information about whatever the system, product, whatever the case may be, as much as you can about that before you go to the subject matter expert. Okay, hopefully I answered that question. Thank you.